Facts, not framing. Because when you look at the data here in San Diego, the idea that everyone who owns a second home is rich simply does not reflect reality. This proposal would impose a new annual tax on homes, extra to the already high property taxes that our homeowners pay. These homes that are deemed vacant, thousands of dollars per year, escalating over time. Those who support this not well thought out tax proposal for the November ballot argue it will target the June and November ballot, that it will target wealthy property owners and free up housing supply. But let's examine that claim carefully. San Diego has roughly 500,000 housing units. The number of properties identified as second empty homes represents a very small percentage of that total inventory. Even if every single one of those units returned to the market tomorrow, it would not solve our prospective housing shortage. Why? Because our housing crisis is fundamentally a supply problem. We do not have enough housing to meet demand. We face high construction costs, lengthy permitting timelines, even with the regulatory barriers that have been relaxed in some areas, thanks to Mayor Gloria, who I don't agree on with a number of issues, but I think some of his relaxing of the regulatory barriers and particularly the permitting timelines have deserved some level of compliment. The infrastructure constraints, and we live in one of the most expensive housing markets in the United States. The question before us is not whether we care about affordability. We all do. We all do. But we must focus on increasing housing production, streamlining permitting, reducing unnecessary regulatory barriers, encouraging adaptive reuse, and working collaboratively with neighborhoods to secure the proper support and infrastructure needed for sustainable housing growth. Real solutions require partnership, not slogans. San Diego deserves serious housing policy grounded in data, fairness, and long-term stability. That is why we are calling today on the City Council to vote no on advancing the proposed residential vacancy tax to the ballot tomorrow. Yeah. You see, let's focus on building more housing. Let's protect home ownership, and let's pursue policies that truly expand opportunity in our city. As I stated at the beginning of my speech, it is evidently clear that the people that own second homes are being perceived by those who argue for this ballot measure that they are the rich. They are being perceived as people who are overclass citizens, who have been privileged. But many of these people have fought back from the challenges of life, have fought the expensive constraints that it takes to live and grow in San Diego. And they are simply hardworking middle-class citizens who have worked to get their place in this city. And they do not deserve to be used as a pawn to fill a deficit hole that they had nothing to do with creating. So I believe firmly that we've got to address the deficit, the over $120 million deficit. Last year, my office proposed a number of measures to combat that, including the city dealing with the overinflation of its middle management positions, cutting middle management, finding other navigated tools within the city to deal with the inflation, the inflated budgets, the inflated overtime that really is causing a lot of why we are in the situation we are in today. The city continues to instead look to the same taxpayers that they have asked every 5 years for the last several decades to bail them out of a bad spending problem. Today, we must say enough is enough. San Diegans deserve a better deal, a deal that does not require them to bail the city out, a deal that allows them to try to build a future in this city without being used as a pawn to fill deficits that they had nothing to do with creating. Overspending and consistently inflating middle management has been part of the reason why we are here today. Despite what some council members may tell me on the phone and in private, I know the truth. I have watched the consistency of this problem develop. This is not a problem of overnight, and it's not a problem that started with Todd Gloria, and it's not a problem that started with the city council. This has been a consistent problem that has grown over decades. And I can respect that we've got to find other ways to fill that deficit. But looking to the people of this city who are already overspent in SDG&E bills, overspent in water rates, overspent in their water bills, overspent in just the standard cost of living, being ticketed and feed everywhere they go, even if they want to go to the park. The use of the taxpayer who already has invested so much in our city has to end. The manipulation tactics at the city level have to be called out. And it is time for the city to look within instead of looking out in dealing with this massive budget deficit that the taxpayers had nothing to do with creating. So, I know the questions will come, okay? Why are you taking on this ballot proposal? Let the voters decide. Well, let's get real with the situation that we're looking at with June and November's ballots. Both ballots are looking at 3 or 4 tax measures that will appear before the voters. There's county tax measures that will be on the ballot, asking a pitch to raise the sales tax on the county level. There's even more talk, even though the failed city sales tax failed in 2024, they're looking at trying to bring it back again. The egotistical middle management maniacs just cannot stop. They have to continue to tax and fee San Diegans at every level that they try. With all the tax measures that are already appearing on the ballot, this would be yet another one that will fail. Let me say that again. This will yet be another one that will fail. And it will fail because now is a difficult time for many people. Inflation on the federal level, mismanagement on the local level, all of it ties together to make the standard homeowner and the standard family say, I don't want to pay more taxes. I don't want to do that. And so the question that's coming before the city council tomorrow is not really the debate, even though that is what we're talking about today, of housing and the housing shortage. That's being used as a pawn. The real thing that's happening tomorrow is the city council is deciding whether to put the voters the question, whether they should invest more if they own a second home into this deficit. And I can guarantee you, with the overarching amount of tax measures that are going to appear on the ballots, it is evidently clear that there is tax and fee fatigue, and it will be very difficult if the city council decides to spend more money of your taxpayer dollars to put a measure on the ballot that likely is going to fail this year. So I call on the city council to say no. Say no to this measure. Say no. Say no. And send it back to the middle management and those in the inflated middle of our city government and make them and deal with where the high stakes are. It's not with the taxpayers. It's not with the homeowners. And many realtors and homeowners are here standing with me today to declare that. It is within your middle management crisis. That is where the problem needs to be solved. And with that being said, I'd like to now introduce someone who's been a friend and someone who understands these issues not just from a policy perspective, but from personal experience. He is a homeowner in the city of San Diego as well. Richard Ascoli is the CEO of the Pacific Southwest Association of Realtors. Let us hear from him at this time.
Hi, I'm Richard Ascoli with the Pacific Southwest Association of Realtors. You know, I was speaking to Shane earlier yesterday, and he called me. He said, Rich, you know, why do realtors care about this issue? And, you know, it has nothing to do with second homes. I don't own a second home here in San Diego. Most of the people here don't own a second home. What we really care about, and the reason we're here talking, is because our clients are homeowners. And this ordinance will impact every single homeowner in San Diego. In San Francisco, a lawsuit, DeBane versus City and County of San Francisco, revealed the truth about how this will impact residents. The families facing these penalties weren't Wall Street firms. They were residents living in their own buildings and families keeping units for personal use. They were handed tax bills ranging from $2,500 to $10,000. A policy written for speculators is actually hitting our neighborhoods. The lesson here is simple. Enforcement doesn't happen in theory. It happens in real households with real circumstances. It hits seniors, caregivers, our active military, and families trying to navigate an inheritance. The government cannot regulate housing without micromanaging people's lives. Look at the model in Berkeley. When a home is considered vacant for more than 6 months, the city doesn't come to you with proof. They come to you with a bill. The burden of proof shifts entirely to the residents. So the city sends you a bill, and the resident has to defend themselves and say, no, I lived in this home. You're essentially guilty until proven resident. To prove you live in your own home, you have to turn over your private life to the government. You have to submit utility usage, occupancy records, the personal documentation for a city board to review. When you have to prove to the government that you live in your own house, your home stops being a sanctuary and starts being a file. Now, we all agree that San Diego needs more housing, but we shouldn't create a system that penalizes ordinary residents or monitors how they live. The structure of this proposal tells the real story. In cities like Vancouver, Oakland, vacancy tax revenue is legally locked into affordable housing and homeless services. Those cities at least tie the tax to housing outcome. I don't understand why we created an ordinance that's supposed to help create housing and create more housing, yet we take the money and we put it in the general fund to use for middle management. If the goal is housing, the money should be built on housing, period. A housing policy produces homes. A revenue policy produces more taxes. We should judge this policy by the housing it actually creates, not the revenue it generates. If this were truly a solution for affordability, the funding would be legally dedicated to homes. Since it isn't, we have to ask, is this about housing, or is it just about the money? So with that, I'd like to introduce the Pacific Southwest Association's president, Claudia Zaker. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Claudia, and I'm here today as a housing advocate, a leader in the real estate community, and a resident of San Diego County who cares deeply about the future of our region. Let me start with this. We absolutely have a housing affordability crisis. Families are struggling. Young professionals are struggling. Seniors are struggling. But this empty homes tax is not a housing solution. It's a political headline. An $8,000 to $10,000 annual tax on a property because it isn't occupied for 183 days a year does not build a single new home. It does not streamline permitting. It does not lower construction cost. It does not fix the supply shortage that every housing expert agrees is at the root of our affordability challenge. What it does is punish property ownership. Let me make this real. A close friend of mine, a neighbor, owns a modest second home that they used out of their equity to buy here in San Diego. She keeps it for her elderly parents when they come to visit throughout the year. They are aging. Travel is difficult. Having a stable place to stay matters to their health, their dignity, and their peace of mind. But there are months when that home sits empty. Under this proposal, she could face an $8,000 to $10,000 annual tax, not because she's hoarding homes, not because she's speculating, not because she's driving up rents, but because she is caring for her family. That is not compassionate policy. And we have to ask ourselves, once government starts deciding how often you must occupy your own property, where does it stop? If we truly want to address affordability, we should be focused on increasing housing supply, reducing regulatory barriers, encouraging smart development near jobs and transit, creating incentives to build, not penalties to own. San Diego deserves real solutions, not symbolic taxation. I urge our leaders to step back from this proposal and work with industry experts, housing advocates, and community members on policies that actually increase supply and create lasting affordability. Taxation is not transformation. Supply is. Thank you.
Boy, I don't know if anyone wants to come behind the president. She lays it out so clearly. And I want to now introduce another homeowner who is in South San Diego, who owns 2 homes, one in District 4 and one in District 8, and is impacted by this. And this is citywide, I want to be clear. And there are people citywide who are not rich. I just want to really underscore this. And this is someone who could attest to this because his family owns the home in District 8, owned the home in District 8, in which he inherited. Let us hear from Abdur Rahim Hamid.
Well, good morning. Thank you, future Mayor Shane Harris. I want to say that this is really a sad state of affairs, how our city government is overtaxing our people, taxing us out of this city. People are moving in mass droves because they can't afford to stay here, the rents. Then you got homeowners who are trying and striving to keep affordable housing and places for people to live, to be penalized. Your house is going to be vacant for a couple of months at least during transitioning from one renter to the other, depending on what you have to do. My home in South San Diego was the first home bought from my mother and father who escaped slavery by 50 years. They bought the house. My mother and father was born in 1914. And so this was the first house in our generation that we bought. I have a twin brother and a special needs nephew that stays there. So it's family based. And so if something was to happen, like he's going through different medical situations and things of that nature, I would be penalized because the house is vacant while he get himself together. This is not the way to do it. Stop running the scam. Stop trying to put the burden of your irresponsibility to govern and to manage the fares of the taxpayers on the people who are trying to sustain housing. So I want to say to you, to the public, and I want to say to you realtors and homeowners who are out there, we cannot go with this. This is too much an overtaxing. We already pay taxes to the County of San Diego annually, and so this is another insult to injury. Thank you again, Brother Shane, or Mayor Shane.
Thank you. Thank you, Hamid. So underscoring the closing of this and sort of the discussion that's going to be happen tomorrow. My office issued a memo to oppose this vote tomorrow. And I want to be clear, there are some swing votes here. Councilmember Campillo, I have spoken to a number of council members. I'm not going to state who I spoke to, but let me just say that people may have voted on this at the Rules Committee are deeply concerned about the city attorney's report on this and showing that the city will not face tremendous legal backlash. And so that is a risk to the city. The council will decide on this tomorrow. The fiscal responsibility, I talked about that, the 120 million, deficit that we face. I talked about the ballot overload and cumulative tax burden on the ballot this year. I talked about the impact on home ownership. This discourages, I want to just say this discourages home ownership in our city and really makes people fearful to buy a condo, to buy a home, and to own and to keep buying. We've got to encourage home ownership. We've got to encourage more opportunities, not discourage that. And that's why I'm grateful for PSAR and the work that you all do, because you encourage home ownership. So I just want to give you a big hand and thank you for your leadership. So with that being said, oh, Jason, Jason, sorry. One more speaker. Yeah. Or how many? Is it Jason?
There's a couple.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm Jason Lopez, and I'm the 2023 president of the Pacific Southwest Association of Realtors, and currently serve on the executive committee and the board of directors at the California Association of Realtors. And I am a homeowner in San Diego County. Thank you very much. And a second homeowner. One of the reasons why realtor associations exist is to promote homeownership opportunities and protect private property rights. And this ordinance negatively impacts both of those. While it's being marketed as a tax on wealthy speculators, this initiative actually creates a guilty until proven innocent framework where homeowners are going to have to prove they occupy their property or face a stiff tax. And again, that just simply negatively impacts ownership opportunities in the city as well as private property rights. And it's just time to stop going after the homeowners to foot the bill for the irresponsible decisions made by the leadership there. Thank you.
All right, so I'll take questions now. Mia. Lori? He owns a second home. Yeah.
Well, I think, not in the city of San Diego, no, but as Rich alluded to, in some of these ordinances that have passed in other municipalities, it's a slippery slope. So if it happens in San Diego, we saw this a few years ago with, the tenant protection ordinances and things like that, it will impact other communities around San Diego County as well. And I love Shane's perspective on let's stop this at the city council level so that it doesn't go onto the ballot, cost millions of dollars more to get it out there only to see it fail. So it's better to nip it in the bud now so we don't have to face those types of issues later.
Just to clarify, your second home is not in the city.
Correct.
But I want to underscore, Lori, a lot of these folks deal with people who do own second homes in yeah.
Is there anyone here with a second home in San Diego?
I think the importance is second home in the city, second home out of the city. The context here is what is the track record of this kind of policy in other regions where people do. And I think that's the culminating conversation here. It's not whether the folks here specifically have a home in second home in the city of San Diego, because it's difficult to.
Hi, Mr. Harris.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here, first of all. Question, have you spoken to Councilmember Eloy Rivera one-on-one? Because he just lays awake at night thinking of more and more taxes. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
Councilmember Campillo at the Rules Committee last week said, well, why don't we just put this on the November ballot? Rivera's response was, oh, no, we got to put it on June because there'll be more for November. Someone has to talk to this guy. He's leading us into socialism. It's not right.
Yeah.
One council member is leading us into socialism, so I beg you to talk to him one-on-one.
I've had many conversations with.
He won't budge.
This is, I think that, again, this is a city government that believes deeply in targeting the taxpayers to fix the problems that they've created. And I think that Mr. Eloy Rivera is a part of that problem. He just does not understand how to deal with the deficit that we are facing without looking for more ideas, some of them scamish, to try to go after folks and make them pay for the deficit problem. And so I have had many conversations with Shawnee Rivera.
Well, thank you for your
Yeah.
efforts, because without you, this task tomorrow might be more difficult. You're the key, Mr. Harris.
Well, I'm not the key. Um, is there anyone else that wants to give any closing remarks here? Yeah. And introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Jamie Kurtz. I am a local realtor here in San Diego, and I am a homeowner. And actually, in about 4 weeks from now, myself and my husband, we're leaving the state to go look for our second home. I grew up in apartments here in San Diego with a single mom, and never, ever, ever did I imagine I could afford a home in San Diego, but to this day I do. I also have 2 young boys, and I worry about them. I want to be around my grandkids when they are born and when they're raised. I want to be that fun grandma, but I don't know if my boys are going to be able to afford a home here in San Diego. So we're looking at a state, which means our income, our taxes that we're paying hand over fist here are going to go to another state. But I did want to talk about a couple of things real quick, like fictional vacancy. Selling a home and buying a home in San Diego it's a complicated process, and you need great leadership to help you through that process. But fictional vacancy talks about, what if your home takes longer than 180 days? What if it was an inherited home and it's going through the probate process? What if it's a newly built home? They have up to 2 years to get those homes sold and into people's pockets. But again, we are going to reduce that home ownership opportunity because of these taxes. It's scary. We don't want to pay any more taxes. We're getting fined and feed every which way you look. So this proposal is only going to hurt us here in San Diego instead of help us. I'd like to go ahead and introduce Anthony as well.
Good afternoon. My name is Anthony Andaya. I'm a realtor. I'm a homeowner in District 7. I live in San Diego. I manage 150 realtors at an 1,100 agent company. We sell lots of homes. And I'm also a fierce advocate for homeowners and private property rights. This proposal fails the San Diegans struggling with affordability and really just seems to be a general fund money grab. No help for the missing middle. Proponents claim this will lower prices, but research indicates vacancy taxes often increase home prices. The units most likely to be returned to the market are high-end luxury properties, which does absolutely nothing to address the affordable housing needs of our workforce or that missing middle. This general fund grab, section 32.0118, reveals the truth. The council can deposit these proceeds into the general fund for any municipal service. This isn't a dedicated housing fund, and if we're going to tax homeowners, then I believe the homeowners want to see those funds go towards housing. The trash fee lesson, let's all remember, San Diegans were recently told trash fees would be modest only to see estimates balloon. Why should the public trust the city with a new complex tax that includes annual inflation adjustments starting in 2029? We're promoting production, not regulation. The housing shortage is fundamentally a production challenge. Instead of creating a permanent audit department to monitor where people sleep, the city should focus on streamlining permits and incentivizing new constructions and getting more market rate houses built. In closing, we need real housing solutions that build more homes, not regulatory nightmares that taxes the existing supply and funds unrelated to government spending. Thank you. I'd like to call up Valerie Gardner.
Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Gardner. I'm a veteran, and I am a homeowner, and I'm not a second homeowner. I'm going to speak about the legal red flags and corporate overreach. The focus here is issues with corporate definitions, joint liability, and the audit industrial complex. Bullet point number 1, vague corporate penalties. The ordinance adds a $4,000 to $5,000 surcharge for corporate ownership. However, the definition in section 32.0103 is so broad, it could capture small family partnerships or groups of friends who pool resources to buy a single home. This isn't just a hit on Wall Street, it's hitting Main Street investors. Bullet point number 2, the trap of joint and several liability. Section 32.014D states that if a home has multiple owners, each is jointly and severally liable for the highest possible tax amount. This means if one part owner makes a filing error, the city can go after every other owner for the full $10,000 plus penalty plus interest. Wow. Bullet point number 3, the 10-year audit industrial complex. Section 32.0113 allows the city to initiate an audit up to 10 years after a tax was due or an exemption was claimed. This forces families to keep meticulous records of their residency for a decade. If you lose a utility bill from 2027, the city could come knocking in 2037 with a mountain of back taxes and penalties. Praise the Lord. Number 5, the cost of appeals. The cost of appeals. If the city makes an error in your assessment, you have to fight them through a hearing officer appointed, hear this, appointed by the very city manager who issued the tax. Do I need to read that again? I do. The cost of appeals. If the city makes an error in your assessment, you have to fight them through a hearing officer appointed by the very city manager who issued the tax. Worse, Section 32.0012 requires you to pay the full tax and penalties as a precondition just to seek judicial review in court. My. In closing, this draft is a legal minefield. It grants the city massive power while stripping homeowners of basic due processes. Vote no, vote no, vote no on sending this to the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Valerie. So in closing, in context here, let's just understand why we're here, Lori and media. We're not here because we're a bunch of second home-owning homeowners. That's not why we're here. And many of you got the release. I don't think any of us said that we were second homeowners. But the point is one, this is a taxpayer overreach. Another one, right? This is pushback to the consistency of this city looking at the taxpayers to bail them out, right? 2, this is a homeowner overreach. And the folks that are here may not own second homes, but they deal with people every day who buy and own second homes in the city of San Diego, and they understand the concern here at the foundation, at the root. And 3, the legal implications. Other cities, and I know the city attorney is going to argue tomorrow on why they're going to protect the city of San Diego from lawsuits pertaining to this, but I can guarantee you, as we've seen in other cities such as San Francisco, this is a trend that will continue to San Diego if the council decides to make the not good legal protection decision tomorrow to protect the city of San Diego from legal challenge pertaining to this. And I think along all of those lines, that is why we are here today, is to say to the council to vote no, vote no on this proposal, send it back to Sean Elo Rivera's desk, and make city council and city government think more deeply about what you can actually do to solve this deficit. But you cannot continue to ask taxpayers, homeowners, hardworking middle class, and working class communities to bail you out. The time is over for that, and we're tired of this damn overreach by the city of San Diego. Someone's got to take it up, and the people are pushing back on this now. So I want to thank you all for your leadership and for being here. Thank you, Richard and Mrs. President, for inviting me to Kearny Mesa, to your headquarters here at PSAR. And we have to do what we have to do, but tomorrow the City Council must vote against this erroneous tax proposal. If this goes to the June ballot, the likelihood of it passing is still low, even with lower turnout. It's still low, because educated voters can see this scam from a mile away. You can clap, that's right. The people of San Diego are not dumb, stupid, or in between both. The people of San Diego are smart, intelligent, and tired of being used as the pawn. And if you send this to the ballot in June, it's going to be very difficult to get it passed, especially with the already very clear pushback and opposition, including money in campaigns, that will be spent against this measure. I would stand down and I would send this back to the desk, and let's find another way to remedy our issues at the city of San Diego. If there's no other questions.
Will it help if we go all to the city council hearing?
Tomorrow at 2 p.m., we encourage every San Diego resident to be there at the city council meeting at 2 p.m. The council will hear this erroneous tax proposal ballot measure. We must be there to tell the council no. 2 p.m. tomorrow, 202 C Street. Lori, you have one more question?
Question, obviously, this is the Pacific Southwest Association of Realtors, but are you collaborating all with the San Diego Association of Realtors engaging? They didn't show up at the first hearing.
We have been engaged with them, and I believe that they are starting to churn. I mean, this all happened so quick last week. If you guys have to go, no problem. I'm just answering this question. Last week, this was decided, I think, on Friday, or late docketed on Thursday evening. So it's really, the goal here is he wanted to get this quick on the agenda to try to alleviate any pushback that he would get. But Richard and I did speak with the San Diego Association of Realtors and their leadership, and I know that they're voting on a decision. Ultimately, Lori, what this is going to look like is you're going to have a lot of people investing money and resources in opposing this measure. And I believe SDAR will be a part of that. I believe PSAR will be a part of that, and a number of other institutions. So this is not only costly for the taxpayers to put this on the ballot, but it's a costly mistake for the city council to send it to the ballot, because there's going to be a lot of people invested in opposing this. Thank you, and that concludes our news conference. Thank you.